We're muted. I'm sorry. I said you're. That's what I meant to go say. We had a little technical difficulties, but I'm going to say it again. You're. That's the New York thing. What's going on, all Knicked Up family? How's it going? We're live and direct this Wednesday. I don't know what day it is, but I know we're coming on the after break of a unfortunate loss for the season opener for the New York Knicks. It's something we're going to get into and start discussing. Get a kind of feel about what everybody thinks. I'm Ty, along with my host, the big cuff over here from upstate. How's it going, Joe?
It's going good.
Good, sir. Good. How you feeling? How was your day? Your day is good?
Doing good. Just working. Tomorrow I'll be running back down to the Long Island from where I originate.
Strong
visit family and go catch some dinner with mom.
Nice.
Do a little bit of family time.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. You know, sometimes family being close is great, and then distance might make it a little bit fonder. We know this. Well, we might as well get into talking about family. We all came together because we're both part of a Knick family, a large Knick family, a family that's probably coming into the season with a lot of, great expectations. We know we have championship aspirations. First time that dust has ever been sprinkled on Madison Square Garden in a very long time. We've gone probably over 50 plus years where those expectations were a possibility. And now we are sitting here, obviously, beginning of the 24-25 season. And I don't know, we obviously had a season opener against the reigning champs, the Boston Celtics. We all know what happened last season. They showed an impressive dominance over the entire league. We know what they're made of. We know the metal that they're made of. They ripped through the postseason like a hot knife through butter. Really didn't have any competition. Pretty much doing what you saw happen last night with the New York Knicks. So just to kind of recap, the New York Knicks lost to the Beantown Bombers, I guess is what we can start calling them after last night's game, 109-132. To take the first season home, the season opener for the Knicks sitting 0-1. Let's relax a little bit. We do have 81 more of these games to go. But however, we know that it's going to obviously be either a reaction or underreaction as far as with over or underreaction, I should say. And actually, that's what I called it, actually. The over and underreaction of the New York Knicks losing a home opener, their season opener, to the Boston Celtics on ring night. I think a lot of people came in with the expectations that the Knicks would, kind of be trying to challenge, make a statement, et cetera, et cetera. Actually, Boston must have heard the chatter from all the Knicks fans. They watched the moves that the Knicks made. Clearly, some of the players actually talked about that. The coach, Joe Mazzulla, talked about it also. Talked about it. How he felt that, they kept an eye on the Bridges move and the other moves that the Knicks made. And clearly, we were on the scouting report last night because of this little factor here. I know it's spelled trifecta, like TRI, but let's everybody just try a 3-point shot was the actual theme last night for the Boston.
That percentage was a lot higher earlier in the game. Through about 3 quarters, it was over 50, well over 50.
Well, what was your thought when you're watching this unfold as all the rest of us, wanting to stab our eyeballs out while watching arguably maybe one of the best shooting, displays in the history of the NBA. I mean, we really almost met historical levels. Definitely with the percentage that we're shooting. Yeah. Like Joe said, 47.5. That really wasn't the tale. They actually missed 16 straight shots in the end, trying to break the record. Yeah. So just do your math, your simple math, and understand that 48% makes it look. It's a humbling number compared to what was really happening. So, what was your take when you started seeing this unfold?
They were at 29 with 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter. I was messaging back. We were messaging back and forth during the game. Me, you, Eric, Bob, John. And I said to Eric, I'm like, this is not sustainable. And he's like, sometimes it is. For the sake of for the purpose of a single game, sometimes it is.
Yes.
You know, I'm sure the Celtics wanted to make a statement. I'm sure they've heard all the noise. They got their rings. Everything came out, and they just came out and just it felt like the rim was like twice as big on their end. They just hit everything that they could. I tip my hat to them. It was goddamn ridiculous. It was just everything went in. Everything went in. And it was crazy. Like if we had a game plan, I felt like it went out the window. I think the team got rattled because they that's not the game that they wanted to have opening wise. I think they wanted to make a statement against this team. It ran away from them quickly, and I think the game plan went out the window. It didn't seem like they were playing structured, disciplined basketball. They were just trying to chase them the entire time.
Mm.
I'm not going to make too much of a game,
Yeah.
single game. There were some concerning parts watching Bridges. He came on a little bit later. Mikal Bridges looked broke through about three quarters. He started picking it up in about the third quarter. That hitch started to kind of go away a little bit. And he started kind of hitting some shots. And Anunoby just looked confused after some early aggression that he showed in the quarter. Jalen Brunson looked great. Miles McBride looked great, but it's not the way you want to start it off. But what can you do against that? Honestly, I mean, you can't do anything. It was their night. They got their rings, blew us out of the building, and we're on to game two.
Yeah.
That's all I can really say about the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you want to definitely use the word anomaly, once in a lifetime. Usually we'll never see, maybe not never see this again. Although we do live in an era, obviously we know of the three ball. We talk about that often. Us old heads about how the game has changed so much. You went from an inside out game, inside out. That's how it used to work. Now everything's perimeter oriented. Everybody shoots a three ball from your five to your point guard. It is what the league has always been built on. For the last 15, 20 years. Well, during the whole Steph Curry era, this is what has gone on. He actually, changed the game so much that everybody and their mama think they can hit a three nowadays.
They had offensive sets out there where Horford was playing the five that they were all beyond the 3-point line. All five of them.
All five. And, I think that the question bowls well. I mean, you'll hear Eric bring it up quite often. We've had these discussions offline, maybe not on camera, that this has always been a little bit of a nemesis of the Knicks, is that we've always had a kind of a sweet spot for 3-point shooters to have great nights. It's been a theme, a growing theme under Tom Thibodeau, where we know his whole agenda is to protect the rim. Joe Mazzulla clearly knows that also. And all the Celtics knew that as well. They knew that if you could start bombing on the Knicks, you're probably going to blow them out the water, because their defensive philosophy has always been about packing the lane, hedging heavily into the lane, and not having usually enough time to recover to the 3-point arc. That's what we're seeing. I guess my question I want to throw to you is it maybe time for Tom to not be so, cookie cutter Tomish when it comes to every team? I think the thing that we're seeing is that he's applying the same principles to every team he faces, that we're going to protect the rim, we're going to switch, and we're willing to concede the 3-point shot. I think this works clearly in the 80s, clearly a lot in the 90s, where it was a whole mid-range game. You packed the paint, you made guys either fear going into the lane, or you made them excellent jump shooters with a 2-dribble, whatever, and hope that it was a post game also, a whole different dynamic. And we know Tom is old school. He comes from that line of basketball, knowledge or whatever. But we are in a different era. Do you think that it's maybe time for Tom to start looking at where we are? Time and place is always very important in this world, or in any aspect of anything you do. Is it maybe time for Tom to sit and think that what he's doing for most teams may not work for all teams, and maybe you need to have a different scheme when it comes to teams like the Celtics, who we know are going to launch it a lot. What do you think about that?
With Tibbs sometimes can surprise you and will make brilliant little adjustments,
Mm-hmm.
particularly when things aren't going well. But he also has this entire realm of things that he is particularly stubborn on.
Mm-hmm.
And this whole drop defense concept that he's really kind of, I know that drives Eric crazy. Yeah, the game has changed.
Mm-hmm.
I understand his commitment to it because I'm thinking the same thing he is
Mm-hmm.
during the game, that this is not going to last.
Yeah.
And it did last, and they blew them out of the water.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I come from an era of basketball that is an appropriate way to play defense. So
Mm-hmm.
what's
Exactly.
true of him is probably true of me, age-wise,
Mm-hmm.
philosophy-wise. I don't think in line with today's game. There has to be a translation that happens in my head. I have to pause and shift
Mm-hmm.
paradigms a lot when I consider these things. But this is the modern offense. This is the modern offense.
Yeah.
Now, do I think that they should have all 5 guys out there on the defending the 3-point line? No, because these guys could also put it on the deck and blow past you and
Mm-hmm.
create and all of those things. So this is one of the things that's really hard when you have as many shooters that you have that are skilled and can attack you on different levels. So I don't know that a defensive shift would have changed what happened last night. I think they just came out and just blew them out of the water and had a miraculous shooting night.
Mm.
So I don't know that I would place this on Tibbs. I think, honestly, this is just one of those losses where you go, well, that was an L, man. Nothing you
Mm-hmm.
can do about that. We were shooting on like 60% from the field at one point.
Yeah.
But I will say one thing. I noticed our rebounding being a problem.
Big time.
There were a lot of second chance points that came the Celtics' ways due to a lack of a presence.
Mm-hmm.
So again, as much as I don't subscribe totally to, we don't need that presence down and protecting the rim, because protecting the rim is also part of rebounding. When you're playing that defense, you're also rebounding better.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's one of the things that really helped us last year. So I understand the criticism,
Mm-hmm.
partially.
Gotcha.
I don't know that I entirely subscribe to it, but
Mm-hmm.
it is frustrating because I think even before Thibodeau, when you look at all of the coaches that preceded, we were historically bad at 3-point defense. This is not just a Tibbs thing. It seems to be like the haunted house, that's lasted like 3 families, and
Generation.
everyone that comes in, there's a ghost in the house, and it's causing bad 3-point defense. I don't know. It just seems like it's a Knick thing. Surprisingly, we're known as a defensive team.
Yeah.
But I could understand the frustration, but I don't think it would have made a difference last night.
Gotcha.
I didn't know that it would have personally.
Yeah, I mean they were just hot. It reminds me of a video game, kind of hot. It just they revved up and they wouldn't stop, and there wasn't really nothing anyone could do about it. Someone made mention during the broadcast. It said even if it was an all-star team, the Celtics probably would have beat them last night, being that they had that many shooters locked in shooting. They probably will never repeat that. I mean, when you really think about it, because every shot that went up was like a video game. It went in and it was from 3. It just so happened it was from 3. Sometimes it was the mid-range game. They just couldn't miss. They were just a well-oiled juggernaut last night, and I don't see them repeating that ever again probably this whole entire year. If they do, then nobody's beating them if they ever could do that, more than twice a year. But I look at it with Tom. There's probably not much he can do. I just think that it is obviously some adjustments he could make to maybe stop the momentum, especially when you see guys struggling to get back to the 3-point line. That's one of the things that's kind of disturbing. It's like, well, if you see that they're actually only committing to shooting threes, then maybe you want to say, hey, stay a little bit closer, don't hedge as deep in the paint.
Right.
Not that it would probably mattered last night, but at least, I don't know, go out there, challenge the guy, run him off the
No,
three-point.
I
Maybe.
get the criticism. I get the criticism, and it is real because in other situations where a change of philosophy would help, I've seen him not make that change.
Yeah.
So I get that.
Mhm.
I absolutely get that. You know what last night reminded me of? Did you ever play the Nintendo game Double Dribble?
Absolutely one of my favorite games all time.
There was like a glitch in the game. If you did the jumping towards the baseline 3, you hit it every time. You know what I'm talking about?
I absolutely know the game you're talking about. I
Yep.
used to love it. You do the little hitch and you throw it up, get the
Yep.
little guy, the little pixel dude to turn the right way, and you would lights out the whole damn game.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
exactly what they were. It's so funny you bring that. I was thinking that last night when watching it. I'm like, this is Double Dribble, the live version. the actors are real in this video game. You brought up a great point, which is something that I brought up probably, I think it may have been last show where we talked offline about it. Everybody was talking about the offensive rebounding, and I said the defensive rebounding was what I was most concerned about in this era, of Knicks, because we have better scorers. So clearly, offensive rebounds mean you're missing shots. That's why it's important to get second chances, second shots at the basket. Obviously, when you're a team lacking offense, the offensive rebounds are beneficial for you. However, I was very concerned about what we saw from the Celtics last night, which was that they're getting opportunities on the other end for their offensive rebounding because we don't have what I feel like is an intimidating presence that is getting that ball and saying, no. Shout out to the Dikembe Mutombo, waving the fingers like, no, you're not getting another look at this. Not in my house. I'm gonna take this ball and try to get out in transition. Something we saw Josh Hart specialize in doing. Most of his tenure here as a Knick. I just felt like, I know we brought up, we were talking about Jericho Sims. There's always been a debate in our own little private chat about who do you want to play. And I think Eric did bring up a point about his plus minus was one of the best on the team. I think it was second only to Campaign. His plus minus. Neutral. Yeah, he was neutral. Whereas I get it all. Not that Sims is not a presence. Not that Sims cannot play. We know he's gifted enough. He's at this level. He can play. There's always just that nasty factor. It's just a nastiness that I like seeing in players where guys are second guessing what they're going to do or, when you can physically intimidate them. There were just plays where I saw Sims have great production, but I didn't feel like nobody feared him. No. There's a guy like Hot Party came into the game towards the end. And he's just a rough dude. I just think that maybe it might benefit the Knicks being that they don't. Precious Achiuwa is a rough, rugged player too.
Yeah.
Maybe with Achiuwa being out, maybe they should use Hot Porty a little bit more for the rebounding and rough. Maybe you do a bigger front court with the second unit, whatever. Maybe you do a twin tower situation just to kind of get a little nasty on the boards and make these guys think 2 or 3 times about, going up for that extra rebound. And then maybe we can get on transition. They're both smart players. It's not like they couldn't help initiate or give an outlet pass. I just think you might have to mix it up until we get bodies that are able enough to rebound. Our rebounders into the game. You're missing one big one, obviously, in Mitchell Robinson. I buy Cat being a rebounder. Rugged rebounder, maybe not, but a rebounder. Yeah. I just think that the Knicks may need to start, we'll see it as I would say, I'm giving them 20 games to start giving a real assessment of where I believe that they are. But early on, the rebounding on the defensive end, I think, is definitely a question mark until we see better.
And I think the offensive rebounding still is a factor. I mean, they had over twice as many offensive rebounds as we had. And one of the things that hurts you, I think, when you're playing perimeter defense is you're not really boxing out. You don't have the advantage of the box out on to get those kind of rebounds. But I mean defensive rebounds specifically with the box out. But it's a tough thing. We were kind of spoiled with Hartenstein and Mitch in there. He brought a lot to the table. We're going to miss him. I think you're absolutely right, Ty. I mean, it's going to take 20 games. We got to realize our bench is different. Our starting unit is different. All of these things. But it's kind of like the fan base and what we are as fans. And I understand the overreaction and people, oh my God, but I think as a fan base, we need to breathe and let this thing gel. Let it just come to itself. I think we're going to be fine. I think the team is going to figure out what's going on. I hope that Bridges figures out his jump shot, but I think the biggest thing that's going to help us rebounding wise is a change in the starting lineup. And we talked about this, last week.
Mhm.
I think the front line of Achua and Towns will maybe not be as quite as effective as what we had last year, but it'll be close.
Yeah. I agree. I think when you look at the dynamic of what the Knicks have on the floor, Mikal Bridges, we'll bring up him a little bit as we talked. You brought him up earlier. It did take him 3 quarters to kind of get acclimated, and to get into his rhythm, which I always tell people I'm not really worried about Mikal Bridges' 3-point shooting prowess. I don't find him to be a 3-point shooter. I find him to be an all-around scorer. He's more of a slasher who can happen to hit 3-point shots. That's the way I kind of govern his game. But I think he's also trying to find comfort on the floor. I think he's playing, a little bit out of position. I would have put him at the 2. That was initially what I thought would happen when he came, that he would take up Dante's position at the 2, OG at the 3. And they'll figure out the 4 position, which we would probably all agree in unison. Precious Achua should be the 4. I think that would mean a lot to helping Mikal kind of play his better game, which is off the ball, be a second creator for either others or for yourself. And that would allow him to actually get in the paint and do a lot of the stuff we saw yesterday. He was just, when he got free in the third quarter or late third, early fourth or whatever, you just saw a guy playing basketball out there. He was slashing to the rim. He was cutting. He had a lot of, different things he was doing other than waiting and camping out for that awkward hit shot that he's supposedly been working on every year of his career that we're learning now. However, I just think that that's one of the things as a Knick team is that I think some guys are just a little bit out of place because when you're looking at a guy like Mikal, even a guy like OG, I think he's better as a small forward. I just think the whole power forward thing.
I think it hurts our rebounding.
Yeah,
having him at the 4.
Yeah,
he's not a strong rebounder.
No. He's a strong everything but rebounding.
Yeah,
as a player, and that's somebody you put on the wing. And I just don't think you put him at a position where you're already a little bit lacking, as your 5 is not a stud 5 rebounder. Not that Karl Anthony Towns can't put up numbers. He obviously can. He's an all-star talent, a star talent. But you do need that nasty player. Like I always say, you need that guy who's going to give me that rebound, and I'm going with it. Hart plays that role. He has always played that role of snatching it, but it's off the bench. I don't think he's a starter in this league, and that's not to him. I just think that he would come off the bench and really give that energy and that ability to snatch the boards and push the pace. But if you're talking about a standard 5 that you're rolling out and you're saying every night we're going to try to execute through player 1 through the 5 and make them, a unified unit, Hart doesn't fit in that position. And OG to me doesn't fit at the 3. At the 4. I think Tom may need to do a little bit of shifting around at some point in the season. Like I said, we're going to give him 20 games, but it just seems a little clumsy.
Hart knows he should go to the bench too. He's already said it. And I think, to tell you the truth, the offense, you could tell they were trying to get him involved unnaturally.
Yeah.
In the offense. They were trying to make him fit where he doesn't fit. Some of those players are great players, like Dante when he was here. Is he a starting shooting guard?
Probably
not. Probably not.
6 man a year?
Yeah. Hart, same thing. Yeah. He's not a starter. He's those are the type of players that give you an outstanding bench.
Absolutely.
But again, this is one of the byproducts of having a very, very talented team is you got to figure out how stuff's going to work.
Yeah.
Between all of them. And, I tried to factor that into my projections for this team because I think, come January, you're going to see a very, very different team. But it's going to take time.
Yeah.
I can picture them in, the new year really making a serious run.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's one of the reasons you brought up last night. You said, what is Ty's name going to be on the show, and I said New York Whip fan. And I'm a New York Whip fan, which means I'm a team that's a work in progress. That's
Work in
exactly
progress.
what we are seeing right here. We are seeing a work in progress with the New York Knicks. I forewarned last show. I didn't want to be Negro Dominus here, but I said it may start off a little rough for us Knicks fans who are anticipating that we're going to come out like juggernauts. Because albeit I love the 4-1 we were in preseason, those games are not ramped up. You're not getting the best hit and punch from the opposing team. They are kind of, walking through, trying to feel out what they want to do. You didn't play great teams during that time. Also, you played teams that are trying to figure out some of their knots and get them untied as well. So in doing so, you are not getting the greatest punch. My favorite Mike Tyson quote is, "Everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the mouth."
Yep.
But this got punched in the mouth. They were Leon Spinks last night, and Mike Tyson loaded up on him. And we all know the results of what happened afterwards. So they literally got punched in the face last night, and we saw what it was. They were not ready. There are teams still trying to find their bearings as a team and figure out what works and what doesn't work. And that is included both on the defensive and offensive ends. So just be a little bit patient with what we're seeing.
So what did you take any positives from the game?
Oh, yeah. I'm going to get to that. I'm going to get to that. Right. In fact, let's get to the
personally. That's why
we'll get to. I'm going to highlight this one person who was absolutely the most positive thing that the Knicks had last night, which is the double deuce. No, this is not Roadhouse. For you Patrick Swayze fans, he's not working the double deuce. He's not bouncing people out, but damn, did he not bounce the damn ball into the rim? I mean, Deuce, Miles McBride was, as they say, he was lit last night.
He was.
And that might, besides the Celtics having this shooting barrage that was absolutely ridiculous, the Knicks' answer was another ridiculous guy. Deuce McBride, whatever he threw up went in.
Yeah.
It was the most amazing, and it's so weird to think. Usually preseason, the guy's locked in. We talked about that in another show, what preseason means to some people and not to other people. And I would say it shows who was in the gym all year working on their craft. Well, for those that doubt that Miles Deuce McBride showed, if one thing last night, that he worked on his entire game the entire summer.
He's shooting with such confidence right now.
That to me was the biggest positive last night.
And that's the thing. Your jump shot is a lot up here.
All mental.
Yeah.
All mental. And he showed more confidence than maybe Brunson or Cat on the floor. He showed it like he belonged in the category. And we heard, I think it was Mark Berman mentioned, a few other people, that Miles' goal is to indeed be a starter on the New York Knicks. And right now, man, would you not replace Josh Hart with him? Because Josh don't want to be there anyway. He's putting his name absolutely in the hat of starters, saying, look, let's put me into that lineup off the ball. We know the defense is going to be there, although they're going to be a little bit undersized. But he made a case for himself, being an electric player who's taken that extension that the Knicks gave him last year and said, you bet on the right damn guy. Basically that's what it is.
Something I always feel like I missed on this kid. Like I didn't see it with this kid, but I said this a while back and got laughed at a little bit for it. But when I said that he is our most tradable asset, when you factor in talent to contract, he's 3 years at $14 million.
I called him the best contract in the NBA. That's what I called him. And other times I said, Mitch probably has the second best, but he's injured. Contract. Dude McBride right now, I don't think the Knicks can trade him. I don't think.
No, but anytime they pick up the phone from anybody, you know what they're going to be asking for.
They're going to be asking for him. Because when you think about it with the second apron implications now, the fact that the Knicks do need some depth, and you got to have cheap depth. This guy is a starter on most teams now. If he's playing this way, he's a starter, or at least a hell of a six-man, which I always put in. I put in last night. I'm going to keep putting it in on live. unless barring some injury, he is going to be the Sixth Man of the Year candidate. The Knicks seem to churn out Sixth Man of the Year. When you look at the history of the Knicks, from whether it's John Starks, whether it's J.R. Smith, whether it's Emmanuel Quickly, he didn't win, but was
Mason almost got it.
Anthony Mason, another six man. The Knicks, if anything, they churn out great Sixth Man of the Year. Miles McBride is going to be Sixth Man of the Year if he keeps up what we're seeing from preseason. Well, actually, I shouldn't say preseason. We're talking from last season.
Even. Yeah.
We're talking since the contract extension into the playoffs and now into preseason and now into this regular season. He is locked in, focused, and has worked on his craft. He's one of the best young guards in the league. I don't think it's even a question now.
With the defense?
The defense, he's a two-way player. He's a legit
The only problem with him is he's not 6'7".
That's all it is.
That's the only problem with Deuce McBride is he's not 6'7". He would be perfect if he was 6'7".
It's when you think about people who were worried about Dante DiVincenzo, and I'm a Devo fan. I didn't like him going in the trade. But this is your answer when you were wondering about who would replace Dante's production, because I think Miles kind of got taken to this, become a forgotten thought, because I think that people look at him being a second rounder first and foremost. He was lighting up the G League for a long time when he went on assignment, and I think people kind of forgot that about him. It's like, oh, well, he's probably one of those players that's just, talented enough to be better than the G League, but not talented enough to be on an NBA level. And now, Tom held him out for a little bit. We were waiting. We're like, well, maybe he's not as good. And then when Emmanuel quickly went, we're like, well, who's going to replace him?
Not only was the answer for DiVincenzo, it was the answer for Quickly, too.
Yep. I mean, that's it. Miles McBride is like, hold up. I'm over here. Well, you guys forgot me? I was drafted here, too. I was a second round value, but I should have probably been a first rounder. You guys forgot about me? You're not going to forget him after this year. Whatever you need to do.
The front office is killing the second round. They're absolutely killing the second round.
Killing it. And now, when you look at Pacome Dadier, him getting minutes, he didn't have maybe the greatest showing, but I think it's
Tibbs went to him, and that was one of the positives that I was going to bring up. Is Tibbs actually pulled?
Hold on, speak on it. That's
relatively early in the game. He went to him.
Mm-hmm.
But granted, there's a need for a tall backup wing.
Yeah.
The fact that he went to him early in the game, I could not believe that he went to him that early in a game that was still pretty heated, and you're trying to make a run and come back. That I thought was maybe growth for Tibbs, but it was a great sign. It was a great sign in for the confidence that they have in this kid, because he has put in a good preseason.
Yeah,
he looked good.
I agree. Well, the talk is that Pacome Dadier has kind of skipped ahead of the line. Like he's progressed to a level they didn't expect. That he's showed them enough. Where I knew when the opening night roster came out, and Alan Hahn, shout out to him, had it up. And it was talking about the list of guys that are on the active roster. I'm like, Pacome Dadier? It's like the Knicks must buy this kid for him to be anywhere mentioned. We know about Tyler Kolek. We know about that. We know Hot Party. Yeah. We know about these guys. We know that they are capable pros. They've been around long enough. But we know Dadier. We all expected, I guess, even on draft night, we're like, well, who's this project? He's probably going to get stashed somewhere, and then come back over maybe in a couple of years when it makes sense. But he himself declared that he wasn't trying to go get stashed. He wanted to stay in New York and play, and it paid off because clearly somebody has some strong, and it has to be Thibodeau, must buy into what this kid's stock is going to be down the line. He plays basketball.
He's got an NBA body at this point at 19. He's holding his own defensively, and the kid can shoot, and the kid's got stones.
Yeah.
I think in the last show that we had, Coach brought this up, and he said, did you see when he turned around and talked to the bench after hitting that three and turned around and looked at him? Like, that's for a 19-year-old kid from France.
Yeah.
Having the stones to do that is a good sign. especially when you want your wings to be brash and aggressive and confident.
Hmm. Absolutely. Well, the thing that impressed me in summer league about him was his foot speed. I thought he had great. He was able to stay in front of his defender. I think that was such a growth moment for me watching him. I'm like, this kid is missing. And my joke was he's Billy Ray Valentine. He's missing his legs. He didn't have any legs. That was the thing. I said when he finds his legs, he's going to be dynamite. And now we're seeing the legs. His body's developed. He's gotten stronger over the summer. Now if he gets the touch on that shot to keep knocking him down, because he's going to be a forgotten person on the floor because of the attention that's going to be paid to Brunson and all the other big names out there. This kid can feast, really, especially against second unit guys who may not have the attention to detail. And you put him out in that second unit to run with a guy like Kolick or even, what's his name?
Payne.
Payne. Pain in the ass, as they call him. Pain in the ass. You got him running alongside of him. This kid can maybe get some buckets and get a lot more confident in his game. The Knicks may have an answer for maybe not the sixth or seventh man, but this could be your eighth and ninth man depth. And God forbid an injury occurs, you got somebody who can be qualified and enough to at least give you some solid minutes down the stretch. So that's good, man.
Definitely.
Yeah. The Knicks, if anything, we should be very proud of their system on how I don't know if it's Walt Perrin. I don't know who it is. We're going to assume Walt Perrin because that's the job that he was assigned to do, was find draft picks and gems. The Knicks have been dynamite when you look at Miles McBride, now Pacome Dadier. We haven't seen McCullough yet, but, we see Kolick clearly, obviously. Everybody's a Tyler Cole fan right now. He came in last night, was another player. First, basically, he's got some stones too because he came in and he looked for his shot. And every time he looks for it, it goes in. It's not like he has a very quiet confidence of when he comes into the game, he's like, oh, I can get the shot. Let me just work the floor to see if I can get everybody else going. He's deadly with that shot from the top of the arc. So I don't know. I mean, what did you think? I mean, we're talking about positive things. Our rookies. What's your overtake of the rookies in general and how they came out? Although the game was out of hand, they did show some promise towards the end, and I thought they played better than the starters.
They played better than the starters. I think, to tell you the truth, I kind of bailed on a little bit of the fourth quarter. It was a long day. I was up really early, getting blown out. So I didn't see all the stats. But some other positives that I took from this was initially the Celtics put Jaylen Brown right away on Brunson to try to neutralize him.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved how Brunson was still able to get his shot off with the defensive attention that he was getting from it. Because a lot of teams are going to try that. They're going to try to pick the 6'6", 6'7", 6'8" guy who could defend really good, like what Philly was trying to do last year to try to neutralize him. And it didn't really matter. He got his shot off whenever he wanted. So that was really nice to see. I think, again, Cat looked like his jump shot was at least coming back a little bit to be more aggressive. I feel like the Deuce McBride showing was a really, really good thing. Just seeing him, the confidence and the joy that he plays the game with and the fire that he plays the game with is really great to see. I'm excited about a lot of these guys that they brought up as rookies as well. I think they all have value. And I think considering the limited draft capital that we're working with, we pulled some real talent. Because, again, I mentioned the second round. We're killing the second round, but we're also killing the late first round. This is an organization that can draft and can evaluate talent. I mean, there have been slight missteps, but nothing that hasn't been made up for 2 to 3-fold at this point. Again, it's going to be a joy seeing this team come together. I'm not going to overreact over what happened. That's in the back. It's going to be seeing this team come together. I think it's going to be a privilege to see this team come together and to see some of these young guys, especially if Tibbs will go to Dadier, will give him time, see him blossom, because we both talked about this, man. That kid's going to grow. And he already has an NBA body, which means it's not going to turn into Spider-Man, where he's like arms to my finger.
Yeah, exactly.
He'll have a body that'll be able to adjust to
Hmm.
growing while still having an NBA body. So I see a lot of potential with that kid.
Oh, yeah, the minute that the height spurt goes, he has a growth spurt again. You're talking about a guy who might be 6'11" that can
Yeah,
play a wing position. We're talking, not want to put him on Kevin Durant level, obviously, because that's blasphemy. But I'm saying, think about that body type with a little
yeah,
bit more physicality. That's what you're looking at if this kid keeps going up in height and skill set. The Knicks got a gym. We know nothing about the kid, obviously. When he got drafted, we had the draft show. And we're like, who the hell is this kid? And once again, we always go, another French player in New York. You just don't want to do it. They never pan out well. But, French fries are for everybody right now because right now this kid is absolutely showing that he has the testicular fortitude, as they say. Shout out to Mick Foley to
yeah.
actually play in the garden and show us a little something.
Yeah, the French players are a lot different now. That guy Saloon from Charlotte looks like he's going to be a player too.
Even the guy from Atlanta Hawks that they
Yeah,
drafted, that
yeah.
kid can ball. I think that he was,
He showed some in the late preseason. He didn't get off on the right foot, but he started showing it later on in the preseason.
I think we're seeing the French era of Wemby. I think you're seeing players from Wemby's generation, not from Gobert's generation or Batum's generation of guys that influenced players like Ntilikina and all the other guys that came from behind, how they came in the NBA and became basically role players. I think we see a guy like Wembyama. He thinks he's a star.
He is.
He is definitely going to be a star. The Knicks are going to have a game with him not too long from now too. He's physically progressed a lot, so I think you're seeing this new crop of French players with attitudes, who are really going to come in and believe that they are just as big as the American players, that they can be special. And thank God we got one. Maybe it'll break the Frederick Weiss curse of what we've been waiting around. Well, a lot of curses are being broken in New York, obviously now. So we'll see with the Liberty. Shout out to them, congratulations to Liberty for winning the title. But
Yeah.
you're starting to see that maybe the Knicks are finally drafting the right way and getting the right characters in New York, because that's what's the most important thing. You can play basketball you want, but you got to have the mental makeup to play here, and he seems like he has.
Yeah. This is a really crummy parallel and not sports related, but it reminds me, with all this influx of French talent,
Mm-hmm.
it reminds me of Hollywood in like the early 2000s when everybody that was in a movie seemed like they were from Australia.
Yeah.
Like literally
Yeah.
everybody that was in a movie seemed like they were from Australia.
Mm-hmm.
But, for all of the, we Americans have been poking the French for many years for being soft and all of that stuff since World War II. And, they're coming back. These kids can play. And it's good to see. I like the fact that the international game's grown. I don't follow it as closely as like Eric does, for example.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we got a steal in this kid. I mean, who was thinking about this kid? Honestly, I wasn't. I don't think any of us were. When we did the draft show, we were like, who? Just like you said. My question is, how tall do you think this kid is right now? Because they were saying 6'7" when he was drafted. He looks bigger than that to me.
I think someone said that he was 6'9", and he's only what 18,
18, 19 now.
Oh,
I think he's just 19.
So he has at least 2 more years where we might see him get taller, before his plates start not moving any further up.
I grew 2 inches in my 20s.
See, so he looks like when I watch him, I'm like, what? He seems like a little kid. Obviously, when we drafted him, little rail kid, and now he looks like a physical man.
Yeah,
and you can see him looking like he's just stretched out and got a little bit more bulkier. So, like I always say, when you think about this team with the young players, they have great examples in front of them. That's going to tell them the right way on how to be a professional in this league. So, I don't see none of our players not developing. I can't see that happening. They might not be stars, but I think you're going to get all the juice out of the orange from anybody we draft from now on.
When the second round player is productive, it's all gravy anyway,
Big time. Big
If
time.
they can play a role, you hit on them, you
Mm-hmm.
know. But guys like Kolick and Kolick looks like he could be more than that.
Holds the ball.
Just McBride certainly wound up being more than that.
You,
Quickly
you
wound
know,
up being more than that. You
they
know,
they they have some. I think the thing that they've been smart about doing is that the Knicks have gotten guys that have been in big programs. I think that's been a little bit not seen. Brunson played in Villanova, obviously a big market program for collegiate level. Quickly played in Kentucky. You always live in that rock star attention life. Carl Anthony Towns from Kentucky. We know Julius was also. But you got guys that had a lot of attention on their back as maybe the better players or the bigger programs. And they're used to, New York's a whole different animal. Don't think I'm ever comparing them literally to it, but it's just the fact I think they got guys that play under the bigger lights, and that's who they brought into the fold here a little bit more, and it's worked out for them. Because Brunson, he's a two-time national champion, and that's nothing to poo-poo at. And he did it in Villanova. All eyes is always on Villanova and those guys when it comes to playing in the tournament. So,
well, it's true, man. Small town kids from small town colleges maybe aren't built for this. Like, for example, I come from Bills country right now. I live about an hour away from
yeah.
Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Allen grew up in a really tiny little small town in California and went to play in Wyoming, small school.
Mm-hmm.
He said he would have been terrified to go to a big city and play. He said Buffalo was absolutely perfect for him. Small town, all of that stuff. He would have been shook if he had to play in a big city.
It's not, everybody don't have the stomach for it.
Not everybody's wired for New York.
And you look at a guy like Kolick, he played in Madison Square Garden most of his games. He's had big moments for the big hits. He's played under these lights. Like I said, it's not for everyone, but the Knicks have seemed to have actually zeroed in on guys that want these moments under the bright lights of New York City. That was the question mark probably for Cat coming in, is whether or not he's going to fit underneath the bright lights. But I thought it was very funny. There was another game that obviously went on, which was the Minnesota Timberwolves playing the Lakers. I was the second up the doubleheaders last night, and I kind of tuned in a little bit to it. And I was laughing because you heard all these things during the trade about, who won the trade? Who lost the trade? And that's why we said you got to let it pan out, because all those people who were expecting that all of a sudden Dante and Julius were going to come there and they were going to just make this team a juggernaut, and we're seeing the struggles, because those struggles are real for any player coming to any new situation, that there's going to be a learning curve and an adjustment period. Because Julius, he really got called out, unfortunately, by Hachimura, saying that, well, we attack him because we know he's going to stand still and not do anything. It's like, wow. Yeah, I'm like, well, damn, did you have to say that in public like that? Don't do Drew like that. He's still a Knick. Don't get me wrong, my heart, but I'm like, man, they just aired my man out like that. It's like, he hasn't played that long on your squad. In the West to be talking about that now. You got to be,
Please do that, though, man. Steve Adams, who's very good friends and a former teammate of Enes Kanter, said the same thing in front of everybody about him. Just run the pick and roll at him. He can't defend it. He doesn't know how. Just run it all day at him.
Wow.
He doesn't know how to defend the pick and roll. And they were tight.
It's like a ruthless world out there. I'm like, then it was a play where Dante went up against what's his name, AD, and everyone's like, "Oh, we won the trade. Wait till we see what Dante." Well, Dante was negated last night. Dante went up for it to try to. I don't know why he was thinking this. He reminded me of RJ in this situation. RJ, I always thought he was more athletic than he was, and he went up for these dunks. You're like, RJ, that's getting stuffed. You're getting stuffed like a Thanksgiving turkey. You don't rise up that high to be doing that. Well, Dante, he has hops. More like IHOP. He's more like IHOP. You put a stack of pancakes, a little bit of stack of pancakes, and then he can jump on top of the pancakes. Then he can dunk. Yeah, we know he can get up, but he went up against AD last night. And I'm like, dude, man, you don't challenge the brow like that, because where he took off, there was no way in hell you were going to get that dunk off. But that's what I'm saying. It's a wait and see process with these guys. Don't just assume someone won and lost a trade and it hasn't been applied into the game, the actual games. You got a huge adjustment period. You're going to start to see the faults of certain players, that what doesn't work, what does work with them. So I think Minnesota got a little bit understanding last night of why Julius and Dante were maybe sacrificial, because they do have shortcomings. They're not perfect players, nor is Cat. We're going to find out what his shortcomings are, obviously.
I think that trade in the long run is going to be good for Minnesota, though.
I don't think so. I don't. I watched Julius last night. He looked miserable. Let's be keeping it real. I felt so bad for him because I know he was dribbling that ball. I know they got to say things for the camera. It's okay. I understand you got to say things for the camera and the PR. But let me speak for Julius Randle. I want to be Julius Randle's, mouthpiece right now. I'm Julius Randle's real conscious on what he was saying. Julius said this was some bullshit last night, that I'm in Minnesota. Are you kidding me how cold it was this morning? This is what Julius was really saying. As he was dribbling that ball, you could see him at the foul line like, this is some BS. How did I leave from New York to this? I don't care what Ant-Man is. I know Ant-Man's special, very special. You're still in Minnesota, dude. And you could see the misery. He's like, an opening night, I am out here in the freezing damn cold in Minneapolis. Are you kidding me? He knows he's not in New York anymore. He gave that expression on his face, like, when are you going to trade me? When are you going to get me the hell out of here? I know Dante probably has more of a chip on his shoulder because he just got something to prove. I get it. Julius wants none of that proof. He wants the hell. So, I can guarantee he doesn't extend unless he can't get any money. There's no way he's not wanting, because he does not. He's
going to extend there, and you're going to be surprised what the money looks like.
Yeah. Well, they might have
the money's going to be a lot less than what his max is. And I was saying that with the Knicks too. I was like, the Knicks are going to sign him for less than what they're talking about. I'm talking he might even opt in. Yeah. The market isn't going to be there for Julius. I love Julius Randle. I do.
I know you do.
I think that team will figure it out. I think they'll be in a better cap situation out of the Cat contract. I think, to tell you the truth, they're going to start building around the Ant-Man timeline, and this enables them to do that. If they can sign Julius reasonably, they will. If not, cap space and flexibility to kind of rebuild around him. But I could see that team. Excuse me.
You good?
I could see that team coming together, and I could see them being there at the end in the West too.
Well, I think anytime you got someone like Ant-Man, he's a super talent. It's no doubt
he's
about it.
He's going to get better this year too.
Yeah. So they need to definitely, Julius has always been a weird fit, no matter where. I don't care where he was, other than in New Orleans. He was a better fit because he was like coming off the bench. So it made more sense that he was a featured player. His market is not going to be what he thinks it is, unless he goes to Brooklyn. Brooklyn is the only team that can offer him those X amount of dollars and maybe feature him as a star player on their team. Will Brooklyn do that? Will he want that is another question. I mean, it depends on where he's at in his career and what his expectations are for his career. Is it financial, or you're trying to win? If he's trying to win, he wouldn't go to Brooklyn, clearly. But
Brooklyn doesn't want him. They don't want to start that rebuild around a 31-year-old player starting with his contract.
They want to build it probably around Cooper Flagg if they can get him. I think that's one of the things they probably would,
That's the same thing too with who the hell from Miami who says that he likes Brooklyn.
Who, Jimmy Butler?
Jimmy Butler. They're not going to pay Jimmy Butler to come play there. That's not where that team's at.
I don't even like Brooklyn. I hope they don't do that to themselves. I think they've got enough of Simmons.
He's going to stay in Miami.
Well, I don't think anybody wants him unless he would go to – some team like the Lakers would probably take him, because they do whatever LeBron asks, and clearly we're seeing that now. They'll do whatever to acquiesce.
How would they work that with the cap and the apron?
Well, that's a good question.
They got tied up in salary.
Yeah, it's hard to make – well, that's the thing that we see moving forward. If it's one great thing that the Knicks front office has been brilliant at, is knowing the cap situation, the apron situation, whatever you want to call it now, and knowing how to manipulate it. I mean, we have literally three. I don't want to put Bridges near Brunson and
He's
Town. They're
he's
not.
making what though?
Yeah, but
Bridges.
no, he is. But when I'm thinking about this, is like the Knicks may be the last team that is able to fit this many really high-end talents under this apron. I think
Yeah.
that's the brilliance of New York's front office, is that I don't think any other team will have the capability moving forward to fit three potential all-stars under one apron, as well as maybe one of the great high-end role players in Anunoby also. So the Knicks now have like a lot of talent under that first apron without hitting that second apron, and this probably has like a 3-year window. Other than Boston, who already had the players, I don't know if a team now from scratch or with whoever they have incumbent that they can now build out the same way. I think the Knicks are in a great position where they're not capped at the second apron and they have a championship team. I don't think nobody has that
Well,
throughout the NBA.
I look at it this way. Well, let's skip back for a second before we get into that a little bit. A lot of people were bent out of shape for what we gave up for Bridges, and they said, well, he's not that good of a player. He's not worth all of those picks. What they don't realize is he also came with a contract that we were able to fit in here because he has one of the friendliest contracts in the NBA.
Yeah.
So not only did you get a high impact player, but you got one that you can actually fit in the puzzle because of what he was making instead of bringing in somebody. Who else were you going to bring in that was going to fit in with this roster that is that high of an impact? So just to put that into the proper perspective.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
However, the team with the best position with the cap is obviously OKC.
Yeah.
They are going to have to pay some of these guys soon.
Mm-hmm.
The difference with them in the long term is they have all of those first round picks for cheap supporting talent. So they can pay 3 guys and still start bringing in first round talent on rookie contracts to plug the rest of that roster with.
Mm-hmm.
They are going to be a juggernaut.
Absolutely.
Absolute juggernaut. That's why I'm happy that our window is right now.
Yeah,
in the next couple of years, because that window is going to close in a couple of years.
That's very true. You bring up that point. OKC, and yes, you are absolutely 100% correct. OKC
they're going to be deep with all of those picks.
That may be, and I guess maybe my fandom got in a little bit of division, but you are correct. OKC is in a great position.
They're going to be
the only thing that they could, Ihart is out, as we know, when he gets back healthy, but they're not missing much of anything other than experience.
And they haven't dipped into any of their assets yet.
No, nothing.
They had twice as much that we did.
Well, that's true. They really, he's one of the best in the business, maybe the best in the business in Presti. And I laugh at it. I look at like with Paul George going to Philly, and I'm like, what was the Clippers really thinking over long term when they think about they gave up SGA and all the picks, and you let Paul George walk? I don't know. Why do you have a franchise? I mean, is that the worst math equation that you could do?
Steve Ballmer was really good for Microsoft, but not so much for the Clippers because that whole thing did not make sense. Again, what you needed to do is you needed to realize that this SHIT did not work out. You needed to not extend George. You needed to not extend Kawhi Leonard and figure out what you're going to do here with no picks somehow. You're going to have to kind of rebuild and suck for a while. They paid Kawhi that contract. I don't understand it. And they let him go. So they were like part in the room, part out of the room.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
And your savior now is the beard. I mean, it can make sense because you like you said, they don't have any picks. They have probably picks, but they're going to be so far deferred down the line. They're not going to make anything now.
Speaking of the beard, that's one of my least favorite players of all time.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, me and you can hang out on that one because let me tell you one thing. He LeBron annoys the hell out of me. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, he does. He's there. He's in that room too.
Yeah, him and they're having a cup of coffee in the same room, and it's because of the antics. I don't like the antics. Don't be a great player and have to do extra antics. I don't like the theater or the childishness on the floor. Is what I should call it.
I don't like the passive aggressiveness and
Yeah.
the unaccountability with LeBron for his actions. I didn't mean. He's an unaccountable human being.
That and Craig
He
probably
won't own anything he does. He won't own it.
Won't own anything. I just thought it was hilarious that he chimed in on the Liberty game about the refereeing, and I'm like, dude, don't you and your son got practice?
Yeah.
Because clearly your son needs a lot of practice. Not knocking the kid, but don't you think you should be in the gym with him instead of worrying about whether the Liberty got a call wrong? You have a lot of what you got first world problems. You're worried about what the referees are doing in the WNBA. Yeah. You got plenty of other stuff you don't need to stick your beak in. Yeah, I mean, Randy, your child is 0 for 0.
No, he's still a young man. Even after he retires, he'll have a platform, so we'll have to deal with his tomfoolery for years.
Yeah,
listen to it.
Unfortunately, I don't like the him and Harden are two of the most annoying players.
Yeah,
and I don't. It's really funny. I come from obviously an era same as yours. We had players we didn't like.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like them because of a lot of the attitude or just whatever. It's basketball related though. These guys, it's character related. It's like you don't like character. Isaiah. I know Isaiah's you're a fan of Isaiah Thomas.
One of my favorite players all time.
Until Isaiah opened his mouth publicly over the last several years, no one would have really said anything about Isaiah from a basketball standpoint because, albeit somebody said, "Oh, the guy's annoying," it would have been annoying in the basketball context, not in the personal context. These guys, when they get out and they make these quotes and in the media, and they stick their noses or they're not accountable. Old heads like us, we are big on accountability, and we can't stand to watch it. That's the reason we get annoyed. I know they're going to call it hating, whatever that stupid word is, but it's just really, stand up and be who you are and stand on your word and be honorable about what you do. That's all we asking as old heads. That's about the only thing we're looking for.
Yeah,
definitely. But you know what? We had a pretty good show tonight. Going to try to land this plane. We have a game on Friday. I can't remember who we're playing. Are we playing?
Let me pull that up.
Yeah, let's see who we're playing. Build for that game. I think is it Cleveland? Or
no. Hang on, I got you. Indiana.
Oh, Indy. Oh. Shaliburton's coming in.
Yeah.
Urkelburton, or whatever I want to call him.
Yeah.
Wow, that's an early test. That's in the Garden, I believe, also.
Yes, it is.
That's the old home opener against a rival. A lot of payback needing to be involved in that. Obviously, Knicks fans are going to be real fired up for that in the Garden.
And they're going to have Ben Mathurin back, who is one of my favorite young players.
I was one of the guys that wanted the Knicks to draft, so you and I are in lockstep. I thought he would have been a brilliant addition to the Knicks that year. I think that was the Ivy draft. Everybody wanted Ivy. I was like, well, if we get Benedict Mathurin, I think that would be absolutely a steal at 7 or 8 or 9 or whatever.
Yeah.
They are going to be back in full tow. Halliburton hopefully will be healthy, so we don't got to hear the excuse if we beat him that he wasn't healthy. It's always good to have everybody on deck, and it kind of gives you a litmus test too of where the Knicks are, as a team. Not a lot of new pieces, I think, if I'm not mistaken, for Indiana. So they have with the same team kind of intact. They have obviously the camaraderie. They played a very fast-paced game. Also ran up a lot of
points. They took care of some of their own. I think they handed some contracts out to their own people.
Yeah, to their own. Obi got extended, I think, was one of them I know. So we're meeting also a team that's also high-octane offense. This is something that the Knicks are going to be dealing with. I think they face Cleveland also at some point, another high-octane team. So what we're seeing now is the Knicks are preparing for not offense, because clearly last night we saw the Knicks didn't have a
Cleveland and Miami afterwards.
Miami will be a break for them because they don't score any points. The Knicks could mollywop them literally every
I'm
outscored.
looking forward to beating the crap out of them for the next 4 years.
Oh, absolutely, because I think
I
they are
can't me.
they are a three-legged card table with an extra bolt out of it. I think the Knicks have them extremely vulnerable, and that should be a mollywhopping for the next year or so playing Miami. The high octane is a concern because I think the thing we watched the Knicks. I think they shot great last night. They scored 109 points. That's nothing to sneeze at. Clearly, the offense is not the issue. We have to find our identity on the one end in which Tom Thibodeau specializes in, which is the defensive end. I don't know if we got. I know we have the dogs. Are the dogs ready for war? Do we have dogs of war right now where they are assured where they need to be on the floor and they're willing to like leave it all out there in an aggressive manner because we do have the best two wings defensively in the league. I don't even think it's close. But I think the one thing if I'm going to ask of OG that I hope is not a trend is that OG is not coming out trying to be a person who replaces scoring. I hope OG comes out and he's want to be a person that replaces OG and just play a tenacious brand of basketball that's physical and that you basically let people know that your presence is there because you were brought in here for those special talents, not for you to be a 19-point a game scorer. I know most Knicks fans will look. We know Eric went over in his diatribe last night wanting to tell what his contract is. You know, we get it. We know it's a high-end contract. We know we had competition in Philly. You had to pay somebody. Bang, he was it. It makes sense. Maybe not in the minds of his talent level or where we may think he should be at. But however, do you want him going to Philly? Absolutely not. That's a rivalry. You know, he got rich at the right time. He played great at the right time. It happens in sports all the time where a guy gets rewarded, maybe not for being great as he is, but being great at the right moment. So in looking at that, I just want OG to maybe concentrate on just being more of a D than a three, three and D. I know you're going to hit the open shot in the corner. Just show your presence and get on some of these guys like Halliburton. You know, you need to be picking up these guys 100 feet and doing what you need to do.
This is making me think with all of our perimeter defenders that we have that maybe there's something to what you were saying before. Maybe I'm taking some of that back. Maybe there's no excuse that we shouldn't be defending the three better when you think about Josh Hart. And you also think the defender Miles McBride out there, and you think about Bridges, and you think about Anunoby. And we have perimeter defenders.
Run them. I'm going to say it slower. I'm going to do it. Run them off the line. That is the answer. It has always been the answer. You have 3-point shooters in this league. It is exhausting for me to even think about it sometimes. Why are you not playing on the perimeter, running those guys off the line? And then what I always thought rim protection is, but maybe someone can educate me, is that you run a guy in a direction towards the help defense at the rim, and you meet them at the rim and challenge the shot there. And you're going to either force them to either pass, which would allow you to actually occupy some of the passing lane and angles to get deflections. I don't know, maybe I'm off. But if I know
starting to think a little differently.
You're supposed to be up on those dudes. So what if they can shoot over you? If you're Kevin Durant, you're shooting over everybody. If you're Jason Tatum, you can shoot over people. I get this whole mechanic. But I'd be damned if you're going to load up and get your best angle shot because I chased out and said, boo. Boo is not going to work it. You go out and extend these guys shoot over broomsticks. This is not going to get it. I don't care how much you put your hands up. These guys are unaffected by those things. But what you can affect is a guy's ability to get comfortable and get a good shot by playing their strong ankle hand and when they're going to load up. You run these guys a little bit off a 2 and a 3, 2 and a 3, and now you can send help and start rotating guys to those particular spots where you know these guys. Because guys want to shoot threes. They don't got short pull-up games anymore. That's the one thing that pissed me off watching the WNBA. I'm like watching these girls play, or women play, watching these women play, and I'm like, well, why would you not force them to try to go off the dribble? They don't have pull-up games. It's not physically in their game. It's not in their talent. Most of them, if you're not Juju Watson, you're not going to have a pull-up game of 2 dribble and pull up. Why would you not run them and force them to make a move? You don't let them camp out. Who the hell's going to let you camp out? You run them and force them to do something that's uncomfortable. Not somewhere where you're just doing a standard jump shot. You watched the Celtics last night. They came off for curls. It's a standard play. They know they're going to get open. They come off the pick. Now, these are practice shots. These aren't shots where you're being contested. And with you have Bridges and you have. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you up, but you have Bridges and you have OG. You have Hart. You have guys that get in people's underwear. Let's keep it as PG as I can. Why would you not have them up on the 3-point and say, all right, prove to me you can take me off the dribble. I'm going to crowd your legs. I'm not letting you get situated. You serious?
This is something where a player's instincts may take over that situation, regardless of what scheming says.
I hope so. I hope so. Because I'm looking last night, and granted, you're right. Nobody probably could stop what was going on. But I'm like, well, please just make a little tweak and say, I'm running you off the damn line. Tatum sat there for the longest. You put a guy like Josh Hart on. The thing that was throwing me, I'm like, why is Josh Hart on Tatum when you have OG Anunoby, who's physically bigger and taller with longer arms? We would have put pressures on him, if anything, if he was still available. I'm putting a guy who's going to say, all right, you're driving. You're not getting a shot off unless it's miracle shots. You're not getting 5 or 10 shots straight that are all net and as wet as an ocean. Are you serious? I'm physically doing something to you to make you think about having to make a different move than your comfortable move. That's just me. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Well, look, we'll get into that another show. We know we have coming up Indiana. Come on, Knicks fans. I'll just say work in progress. Let's be very patient with this team. Give them 20, 25 games if you want. That should give us an idea of where we get acclimated and show what the true root of this team is about. And then the coach is on the coach to make the adjustments afterwards if what the players are doing is not working. So give it a little bit of time. You might lose against Indiana too. They're just oiled better. You just hope that the Knicks can come out with a defensive effort and not want to get embarrassed, and maybe that can lead to a win. Because I think, if anything, the coaching sessions will have a lot of open ears after getting wonkatons like you did last night. I think that they'll be very attentive and ready. The Garden should be rocking. A rivalry's in.
Definitely.
It's going to be a lit situation. So everybody tune in. Just let you know, we'll be back next week.
Next week we may have to go early next week, man. We got Miami at 7:30 next Wednesday.
Oh, so we might got a pregame. We might got a pregame. Do a little hot dog in the back of the car. We don't know. We got to go a little bit early. But yeah, we'll keep you guys in tune and let you know what we're going to be doing. But we'll be back in some capacity, maybe even a short show to kind of get a precursor. And what we'll know is what is our record at that point. Are we 0-2 or are we 1-1? Are we split? Are we jumping out of windows yet? We'll see. But hopefully it'll be a good reason. We have something to cheer about by the time the new show comes on. So tell them where they can find you at, Joe.
You can find me at X at Upstate Joe, AKU for all Knicked Up. And you can find me on the fan page.
There you go, brother. And also you can find me always on the fan page because I got no life. I tell you guys that all the time. Make sure you tap in. We'll keep you updated with all the news and whatever's going on with the Knicks. Whether you need Kleenex, we might offer off a box of Kleenex next week. We may have to do that. You never know. Some therapy sessions, we never know.
The word is patience.
Patience. Definitely learn that. That's not something New York fans are used to, but definitely be patient. And, like I said, congratulations to New York Liberty. We did get a basketball title in New York after so long. We'll take whatever.
People in the Canyon of Heroes celebrating.
What's that you said?
There's going to be 75 people, maybe 60 people in the Canyon of Heroes celebrating.
I feel for those women. They definitely fought. I watched the game actually, and it was very entertaining. It was a little rough to watch. I must admit that. I tell that all the time. It was a little rough. The refereeing was rough. The product needs a lot of polishing. We can see where a lot of the shortcomings is in the game product. And, we do know that they were one of the first teams in the inaugural season of New York Liberty. They were in the first finals. And it took them 28 years to actually get to this point and actually win after having I think it was 4 trips all together total to the finals, so they finally broke through. I just look at it as a reason to have New York fever. We have the Yankees in the World Series.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps our Knicks are in an NBA championship, and we can break that curse too. But I know Knicks fans are like, this bastard's talking that. We just got our asses kicked.
First game.
First game, people. First game. We'll be back. But like I said, we'll keep you in tune. We'll see you next week. You guys have a good night, and let's go Knicks once again. You're